Hi everyone, this is Cheryl from the Sewing Basket in Plymouth, Wisconsin, and I'm here to tell you about our next series, our next technique class that we're going to be offering coming up in a few weeks. If you ask any quilter, what is a classic quilt block? They'll say a 9-patch. They'll say an Ohio Star. They'll say a churn dash. But almost every time they'll also mention the log cabin. And that's the block that we're going to be working with this next series that I'm going to offer. The log cabin block has a long history. It dates way back into the 1860s. Back during the Civil War, it was very popular. It represented Abraham Lincoln. It represented the Union. And it was also used in fundraisers for the women. They made quilts as fundraisers for money to go towards the war. It was also a very popular block with the women because they could use lots of little pieces, long skinny strips that were leftovers from previous projects. So it was a block that used up all those little pieces that they had laying around. So let's look at the log cabin block for a moment. So the log cabin block consists of a center square, and that represented the hearth of the family, that fireplace that was always in the center of the log cabin. Typically, this square was either red, yellow, or orange, again to represent that fire. And then the log cabin consists of a light side and a dark side. The light side represented the light that came off the fire, the brightness into the home. The dark side represented the shadows from the back side of the fireplace. So it just has a little bit of fun history behind it. This is such a classic block that you can do seemingly endless possibilities of settings to go with the block. So this series of classes is going to be about technique, not about specific pattern. It's not going to be everybody making the same quilt with the same amount of fabrics. There will be no specific supply list. It's more about learning how to construct the block, how to deal with some of the issues of the block, and I'm also going to be going through different rulers that give you different options. So just an example, in the beginning we're going to be talking about your classic 12-inch or 12.5-inch square up ruler. And I have a little folder here just so that you can see the ruler a little bit better. Just about every quilter that I know has one of these rulers. And you can use this ruler to square up your blocks. The log cabin block, it's very important to square up in between each round of logs that are added onto it. Those would be the strips going around your square in the center. So we're going to be starting off by showing you how to use your standard 12-inch square up ruler to assemble your blocks. There's also companies that make specific rulers for specific blocks. And the Creative Grid rulers, they make a whole series of rulers for the log cabin block. This is the ruler for the people that I don't want to think, I don't want to do math, I just want somebody to tell me what to cut, where to put it, and how to do it. Then these might be the rulers for you. There's going to be all different sizes of rulers to create different blocks. And again, we'll be going through how to utilize this ruler differently from using your square up ruler. And then the last ruler we're going to be talking about come from the Block Lock Company. And this is a series of 3 different rulers. There's actually a 4th one. We don't carry that one, but we can get it. And this one has, for anybody who's dealt with the Block Lock, I'm going to set it down for a second. They have a groove in here where this kind of shadow part is. And you use that, it's actually routed out in the back so that there's an edge here. And you slide that edge up to the seam on your block so that you can trim it. So again, any of you that have ever used the block locks for your flying geese or your half square triangles, It's a similar technique, but it's just meant to be used for the log cabin block. These, for those of you that are a little more loosey-goosey and like to just play with your stash and be creative and are okay with not necessarily having specific directions for specific blocks, this might be a better choice for you. But again, we'll be going through all of that throughout the series. Just as a little sneak peek, from these 3 rulers, and I've made one sample of each block, you can get these 6 different sizes from those different rulers. So you can go all the way down to this teeny tiny little block with its 1/4 inch logs, all the way to this here larger block that's going to have a 1.5 inch log. So it gives you a lot of variety with just 3 little rulers. Now, one of the things with the log cabin block, or any block I should say, is having an accurate 1/4 inch seam. So one of your homework that I'm going to have you do before we get into this series is I want you to test your 1/4 inch on your machine. And the way I'm going to have you do that is I want you to cut from your scraps 3 strips that are 2 inches by 8 inches. Okay, so 3 different strips, doesn't matter. It's probably best if they're different fabrics just because it's a little easier to see if things are off. Then I want you to sew them together with your standard 1/4 inch seam that you always use on your machine. So once you sew those 3 strips together, you're going to have a little strip set. And then what I want you to do is measure this strip set. And it should measure 5 inches across. I started with 2 inch strips, so it was 2, 4, 6. And then I lost a 1/2 inch of seam allowance here and a 1/2 inch of seam allowance here, which is a total of 1 inch. So my 3 2 inch strips, which started out to equal 6 inches, should now equal 5 inches. I want you to measure it at the top, I want you to measure it in the middle, and I want you to measure it on the other end. And just see if you're getting that accurate finished size. A lot of times what happens is when you start or stop, things kind of wing out. So you'll know if that's an issue with your feed dogs on your machine. If you need to adjust your machine a little bit to get that accuracy, go ahead and do that if you're able to. You can either, like on some machines, you can reset that seam or just write down if you made changes to get that 1/4 inch. But it's a really good thing to do once a month, every couple months, just for any of your piecing. There's nothing more frustrating than doing all this work and then things don't match up when you start to put them together. So that's your homework for now, is to make your strip set and to see where your 1/4 inch seams, if they're accurate. With some of the rulers, you have a little more play. With some of the rulers, that accuracy is extremely important. And again, those are things we're going to be going through throughout this series. I've had people asking me, how much fabric do I need? Where's my supply list? Again, there is no supply list. This is meant to be a technique class. You can use your scraps and your stash from at home. If you would like to have more of a coordinated group, most of us, when we look at our stash, it's all kind of coordinating because we tend to buy the things we like. And so we buy the same colors that fit with our personality. Yes, there might be a few things in there that you made something for grandma or your niece or your nephew that you really didn't like when you were making it. Well, don't use those fabrics. Use the ones that you think are pretty, right? And if you want to have a basic idea, I would say if you pick, because you're going to have 3 logs on one side, 3 logs on the other side. So you can pick a 1/2 yard for each color, and that would keep them all pretty consistent, or give you some mixing and matching, but still have them be consistent throughout. Again, these blocks may be just, you use them one at a time. You can make lots of pot holders. We're learning techniques, not necessarily making a finished product with everything put together. But if it's easier for you, I would pick 6 fabrics, a 1/2 yard of each one, and for your center block, either a fat 1/4 or a 1/2 yard for that also. We plan on having our first class for this series becoming available on March 22nd. That's going to be on a Monday. We figured, seeing as we're closed on Mondays, we'll let you come play with us on a Monday through the computer. So in order to play along with us, we're going to need a little bit of information from you. So if you go to our website, www.sewingbasket.biz, you're going to click on the shop page, and there will be a category on the left that is for classes. And you'll click on that. And you'll scroll down and you'll find the Log Cabin series. Maybe Log Cabin Technique series. I'm not sure what it's going to be named yet, but you'll figure that one out. When you click on that, it's going to take you to our shopping cart, or you can place it in the shopping cart. It's a free class. It's not going to cost you anything, but in order for us to know that you are interested so we get your information, you need to check out. Even though it's going to be $0, you still need to go through the checkout process. So that will then give us all the information that we need so that we can put you into our list of people. So once we start putting the videos up, you'll have access to them. So again, it's going to begin on March 22nd, 2021. And we hope you can join us. Thanks for playing with us. Bye.